Everybody, thank you very much for coming along this afternoon to this session into the good, the bad and the ugly of sports betting, and in particular the sports book. Apologies for the slight delay in terms of kickoff. We're just waiting because we have such a large attendance coming along this morning or this afternoon. I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity to come in. But what I will do now is I'm going to kick off without further delay. Because we have so many people in the session today, what I'm going to ask is if you could wait until the end for any questions that you may have. There is a chat facility that you have that you can send questions to the moderator, and at the very, very end of the session, what I'm going to do is I'll give a little bit of time for any questions that you might have. So again, thank you very much for coming along today. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are first, just for those who are not familiar with us. So we are a consumer insights and data analytics industry leader around the globe. We provide qualitative insights and quantitative data across 25 different industries. And through our methodologies, we identified the issues that 95% of your customers will experience when they try to buy from you online. We have an unrivaled knowledge of digital best practice internationally. And I think really to kind of sum it up, and this is really the only sales piece that you'll get in this session today, we do three things exceptionally well. We provide unique insights to inform digital strategy. We're better placed than anyone else helping marketers understand their customers' online journeys and measure the effectiveness of their competitive brand and digital marketing strategies. I'm going to show you some examples of that when we get towards the end. And then we also provide data and intelligence that leads to optimal online sales effectiveness. That's both on desktop, on mobile and tablet journeys. So we run different programs into different types of platform journeys, and we can discuss those further for anybody who has any questions. But essentially this is driven through an advanced methodology. We believe is the most advanced methodology in the market, which puts us in a better place than anyone else in helping companies measure, track and optimize their online and mobile customer journeys. And then thirdly, we provide expert advice and consultation. On an annual basis, we are collecting and analyzing data on 50,000 in-market consumers and measuring the digital experience of over 500 brands. In-market, you're going to hear me say in-market a lot as we go through, but basically in-market, sorry, I just got a message there. I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you can hear me, could you please just type into the chat box just to let me know? Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so apologies, I can just see one of my colleagues actually has their audio on, and so you can actually hear them in the background as well. So I just asked them to please turn off their audio. Thank you very much. Okay, so they are the three things that we do. I think that the
Unmuted.
The title of this session today has brought a lot of people along to the session because I think that the title is interesting, the good, the bad and the ugly of sports betting and the sports book. And so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about multiple different providers in the industry. We're going to talk about what they're doing from a mobile journey point of view and a desktop journey point of view. The brands that are included in what I am talking about today are on screen at the moment, at the bottom of the screen. So we've got BetVictor, Betfred, BetBright, Coral, Ladbrokes, William Hill, Bet365, Paddy Power, Betfair, and Sky Bet. Now, I'm going to be focusing on some brands and leaving other brands out altogether. But the key point here is that I have the same level of data on all of these different brands here in this study. But what I want to really pull out is the key trends that are happening within the study in terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the executive summary, what are we going to talk about today? The first thing that we're going to talk about is that Paddy Power and Sky Bet are winning when it comes to being mobile first, which is a very important finding because mobile first is such an important new development and strategy moving forward for sports betting companies. Betfair and William Hill mobile journeys are under-delivering against the desktop journey. And I'm going to show you how we have data which substantiates that, and then how that impacts bounce rates, particularly when it comes to mobile customers, bearing in mind that mobile customers may be slightly different in terms of psychographics, age, demographics, things like that. The fourth part of the executive summary is that the UX experience on the Betfair mobile and desktop platforms are the least likely to drive greater consumer propensity to adopt using Betfair. We're also going to look at key performance indicators that show that Betfred are not iteratively improving mobile or desktop journeys. And then finally, William Hill online marketing strategy is performing, but it's not sustainable. So all of this is going to be evidence-led research. So we're going to look at the data that's going to back up all of these. But I think a key point before we move any further is to basically fly through some methodology slides. But actually, first of all, what I have in front of you is this is the scores from a mobile study that we ran recently. So without going into the actual methodology of how the mobile works, or the study works just yet, I wanted to start off with a key finding from the very, very top level. We have a lot of UX people on this session today, and so you'll be very familiar with the concept of UX testing. And so where we have users who are coming in and we're getting them to complete a number of different types of tasks. On screen in front of you, what you have is the scores of people who are in market looking for a sports betting provider or looking to place a bet with a sports betting provider on a mobile phone in the next 90 days. Before they complete any tasks, we ask them, if you were looking for a new online betting company, would you make a bet through? And then we have all of the various different providers in front of you. I've limited to a certain number within the actual study. And then after they've completed 5 different tasks on that sports betting provider's website, they're asked the same question again. If I were looking for a new online betting company, I would make a bet through. And so what we're doing here is essentially is driven by advertising and awareness. And then post is really the impact of the UX as they move through the process of having completed the tasks on site. The sample size that we're talking about here is each person who completes the tasks on each one of these providers does not complete the tasks on any other provider's website. And the sample sizes are between 20 and 50 for each different provider, dependent on their interaction on the program. So the first thing that we can see really is that Paddy Power and Sky Bet are coming out very strong in terms of their propensity to drive people to choose them having completed the tasks on the website. And so that's a key finding in terms of how their UX is impacting on their likelihood to use and basically their judging of the experience of actually having navigated and tried to complete tasks on the website. Some of the other things that are interesting there, we can see that Betfair are not really actually driving any at all. They're actually dropping slightly, and William Hill is staying static and not actually growing at all. So I want to look at the same scores, but this time I want to look on desktop. And so on desktop, we're seeing that Paddy Power are also driving again on desktop, and Sky Bet are also driving again when it comes to desktop. But if we look at Betfair again, we can see that there is an element of increase, but the element of increase isn't really that great. So there's a couple of different stories here. The boxes that are highlighted in blue is really, if we look at the Paddy Power scores from their mobile against their desktop, we can see that they are driving their post-task completion on the mobile site is greater than their post-task completion on the desktop. And the same happens over with Sky Bet as well. And this is where we are drawing the trend and drawing the finding that Paddy Power and Sky Bet are leading in terms of the mobile battle, because they are achieving the highest scores when it comes to post-task propensity to adopt a particular type of provider. And the scores that are highlighted in red, Betfair and William Hill, the reasons why I've highlighted these in red is because they're underperforming against mobile against desktop. So you can see that the propensity to use at the post score is 6.3 for Betfair on mobile, 7 on desktop, and William Hill 6.6 on mobile to 7.8 on desktop. So that's kind of like a very, very early doors, kind of like top level findings. Now I'm going to go through the methodology, which is a key part of this, to explain how we get to what we do and why it's such a rigorous program. So there are 4 unique data streams that feed into the customer experience journey testing that we conduct in global reviews. Those 4 different data points which feed into it then layer in to give us a deep understanding of what's happening from, let's say, the customer behavior point of view. First of all, we ask people to come into the program. We invite them in through online surveys. They're conducting the survey at home in their own house, and so it's a completely natural environment. We're asking them to complete anywhere between 5 to 6 tasks on a website, and we're measuring their success rates, the efficiencies, and the paths through the site as they're moving through it. And so that's one level of measuring performance and effectiveness. A second one is that we're actually surveying them pre and post task completion to ask them about their satisfaction while they're moving through the site, their expectations and their opinions. So it's essentially like a customer audit of how they feel the site is performing in terms of effort and judging the experience. We are also looking at consumers' ratings of navigability, look and feel, and content as they're moving through the site as well. And then finally, Global Reviews, which was founded in 2000, originally began with the area of a best practice audit, and that is a 450 different type of criteria which are used to measure the performance of a website against the performance of another website in a particular industry in terms of best practice. And so a best practice audit is essentially, does it have X, does it have Y, something like does it have web chat, or does it have a privacy link on the universal navigation on the homepage. And essentially we conduct a best practice audit of all the different providers in the study as users are moving through the program and trying to complete different types of tasks. Those 4 different key elements are brought together and combined into a customer journey score, and then that gives us the final results. So how the final results actually work, we map the customer journey in terms of how they are trying to move through the site and the different types of things that they are trying to complete in the site. So for example, one of the first things they will do when they come to the website is what we call the initial engagement stage. The task that they will be asked to complete is to look at the page, do nothing, and then answer a couple of questions afterwards. The types of questions that we're asking them about is trying to understand how does the site meet expectation and build trust, and does it also accommodate returning customers. Types of things we're measuring is this a website for someone like me? Is the page cluttered or uncluttered? Do you get a sense of brand trust? And is there a value proposition, or is there some kind of marketing messaging which supports what you knew about this brand before you actually came to the website? We're then moving into introducing options and facilitating decisions, where the tasks become much more specific. Introducing options essentially is find the odds for a particular type of bet in this particular type of industry. Facilitating decisions, we start getting a little bit more complicated in the tasks, where we start looking for ACCAs and basically accumulators maybe of multiple different football teams within a particular division, or it may be multiple horses in a race. That is the consider phase. Now we move through to the act phase. So now that they're trying to complete it on a mobile, how does the mobile journey respond in terms of what they're trying to do and the environment and the platform that they're working on? Then we're looking at the adding a bet to a betting slip. How do they get on with that process? And then finally, we look at registration as well. All of these have tasks in them. We also have best practice audit, and then the other elements that I talked about, consumer behavior and the customer audit as well. All of the scores are rolled up. At the top level, we have the phase, which is the consider or the act. Below that, we have the stage, which is introducing options, dependent on where they are on the journey. Below the stage, we have a category, which you saw for initial engagements was about meeting and building trust, or returning prospects. Then we have below the category, the subcategory, which is the 4 different data streams that feed into the actual program. And then all of the scores are rolled up and weighted in terms of importance that particular stage is as they move through the journey in comparison to the next stage. So what I mean by that is, as a person is looking to enter in their financial bank details into the website, security may be more important at that stage than it is earlier on in the stage when they first come to the website and they just need to get a sense that their data would be secure on this type of website. So we weight that data and we weight that experience in the whole entire journey in terms of its importance to the consumer. And essentially how that's done is we conduct benchmark best practice audits every year to 1,000 in-market consumers, and we evolve our benchmarks in that way. Okay, so that is the methodology for what I am showing you on screen now in front of you. So what you have down the bottom is initial engagement, introducing options, facilitating decisions, channel selection, adding a bet, and registration. So these are the different sequential stages that we measure as a consumer is moving through the actual mobile journey or the desktop journey. And what we can see on screen is the performance of a certain number of the providers in this program on the mobile journey. So how we conduct the mobile journey is a separate program to the desktop journey and a completely separate group of respondents. So for this particular study, this data, which is very recent, it's only out in the last month, there were 313 in-market consumers who were asked to participate in research in mobile with sports betting companies. So key things that I want to pull out here really is that Paddy Power and Sky Bet are overperforming against their competitors in the facilitating decisions, the adding a bet, and the registration phase. We looked at the fact that Paddy Power and Sky Bet were outperforming their competitors in terms of the mobile journey and the propensity to adopt that provider if they were to choose with a mobile platform. I wanted to look a little bit more into the reasons which might be driving that. And so straight away, by looking at the program, I can see that this is where Paddy Power are significantly overperforming and Sky Bet are overperforming against competitors. Other key things on the screen, we can see that BetBright coming in at 23% in facilitating decisions, and generally across the whole entire program would be the lowest performer. And we can also see that BetVictor are coming in there alongside BetBright for facilitating decisions. Okay, so moving on, let's have a look at the reasons why Paddy Power and Sky Bet are doing as well as they are at these two key stages in the mobile journey. So this is the good. So I'm looking specifically at facilitating decisions. In facilitating decisions, the task the consumers needed to complete was to log into their account and add a £20 four-fold match result accumulator. 4 teams, 4 different matches to the betting slip. And so how did they get on? So looking specifically at the category scores, so within the adding a bet category, we have the betting slip is one of the things that we measure, and the performance of the betting slip, and then we also measured the betting slip support. And so in blue, the circle in blue, the top bar, 76% is Sky Bet. Slightly below that, we have Paddy Power at 74%, and the lowest performer in the study was Bet365 at 61%. And then for the betting slip support, we can see that Paddy Power is significantly coming in higher at 67%, while Sky Bet are coming in at 40%. The bar chart below that line graph, indicates the different types of key metrics which are making up the scores above it. So satisfaction with adding a bet is part of the customer audit. Evaluation is part of the customer audit. Betting slip function and content, slip error handling, and slip online support. So we can see straight away that one of the things that Paddy Power are doing better than Sky Bet is their slip online support, as people were trying to complete those tasks. But in general, for the two of them, these are very, very good scores when trying to add a bet to the betting slip. So what is it that Sky Bet are doing well that is driving these scores? So the task success rate for people who were conducting this task was 73%. The mean time it took people to complete it was 2 minutes and 17 seconds, and 88% of those who completed the task said the site made it easy to add their bet to the betting slip. So when we go into the process of adding a bet to the betting slip, the Sky Bet process, we go through coupons, and then in coupons we have the ability to then click on 4 to 5 or 3 different types of options that we want, and it immediately adds them to the betting slip. That then brings them to the betting slip, and we place the different types of bets that we want to place with Sky Bet, and then we moved to the actual making the funds deposit that I need to in order to place the bet. The support that Sky Bet provide in terms of doing this is one of the strong things on the Sky Bet mobile journey. So first thing I do is I brand the site as placing a single bet and one by one click on each bet. That will then be added to the betting slip. All of the options are displayed on the betting slip, and then I can click on the multiples on the bet slip and enter the stake and press the group place bet button. And so it's pretty standard and straightforward and simple. The clickstream journey, as people were moving through completing this actual task, is very tight and small. And this is one of the key reasons why people found it very easy. So we can look at the clickstream and we can see how different people actually move through the page to complete the task that they actually completed. However, while Sky Bet do very well in terms of people having completed the task, it is slightly difficult to do to complete this task if I go through the menu option on the left-hand side. So if I pull up football from the quick links option, it shows up individual matches. And if I click on an individual match, it adds it to the bet slip. It doesn't allow me to add another bet from the bet slip, which is a key part or challenge for Sky Bet in terms of adding a bet for them. If I select just one bet, the multiples doesn't show up. So I have to go back out and add another bet to the betting slip to get actually the option to click on multiple. So the idea being that it only shows up the option as I'm moving through it. But Paddy Power are slightly different. As I look at Paddy Power for the same task, the task success is coming in 73%. The mean time is 2 minutes 17 seconds. We have 68% of people who said that they did not encounter any problem when they were trying to complete the task. And the things that they do, which is different to other people, which drives their scores and makes it easier for consumers, is that there's explanation of lingo on the betting slip. There are predetermined denominations provided to easily add betting amount, and then you can begin searching for another bet from the betting slip. The specific button to empty and clear the betting slip from the actual betting slip. So as you confirm the bet, they start bringing messages forward. So I want to click on one bet. I'm in the actual area which will let me click on one or multiple, and it prompts me with a message which asks me, do I want to place a bet now, or do I want to add to the betting slip? So it's confirming up front what I want to do and whether I'm actually going to go for a multiple there and then, rather than adding them all and then going in and finding out whether I can do a multiple or not, which is like the Sky Bet, where you have to move one step forward. Paddy Power are actually allowing that information to happen one step prior. And then as I go in to actually complete the betting slip, towards the bottom of the betting slip, it gives me lots of other options in terms of where I can go and the different types of things that I can do, which a lot of other providers are not offering. And so this is one of the key things in terms of the Paddy Power navigation, which is strong and powerful because it allows users to go forward and back based on what they were doing and remembering my behavior. Other key things that it does is it pulls forward information in terms of explaining what different types of bets are. So example, accumulator bet, it explains what an accumulator bet is, and then as I go to make a bet, it pulls forward a summary of the different types of bets that I'm making. And so that is one of the key things that Paddy Power are doing and what's driving them forward as being a strong provider. So that's the good. Now I want to look at the bad. One of the things that we do within our platform or in our program is that you will get access to a platform. And in that platform, we have a number of different dashboard scores where you can quickly see how your brand is performing in comparison to others. Some of these metrics would be quite standard metrics that you would be familiar with. So we have the system usability scale, where the question is basically to measure a number of different criteria on a 10-point scale. And the different types of things that we're measuring is essentially whether you feel that you would need the help of an expert to get through this. We're looking at things like user interface, and we're looking at things like complexity. I'm sure a lot of people here are very familiar with the SUS score. We also have the customer effort score. How much effort did the website make you personally give to complete the tasks required? And then we've got the judging the experience score and the web promoter score, which is very similar to the net promoter score, except obviously in this case, what we're looking at is the propensity to recommend a website. So looking at some of these key dashboard scores, I want to look at some of the scores with regards to Betfred. And again, we're looking at different types of journey. We're looking at mobile and we're looking at desktop. So first of all, the Betfred scores for customer effort compared against the industry average on mobile. We can see that they're underperforming. For the system usability scale score, we can also see that they're underperforming. Their overall task effectiveness score is stronger than the industry average, which is good news. But however, when we look at the desktop performance, we can also see that the desktop performance against the industry average for the customer effort score is significantly underperforming. And we can see the same with the system usability scale. And there is a correlation to an extent between the system usability scale and the customer effort score. But what we have found is that the customer effort score has a much closer correlation to the propensity to adopt. So, a bit of a scary chart in front of you, but what I wanted to show you essentially is the line chart is the customer effort score over time. The key thing with the customer effort score is that the closer to 0, the better the score. So the closer to 5, the worse the score. So we can see for Betfred, in February 2014, the mobile score was at 1.7 and the desktop score was at 1.9. Looking specifically at the desktop score over 4 different data periods from February 2014 through to August 2014, we can see that it's decreasing in terms of its performance through to February 2015, and then finally in the most recent study it's 2.6. On the mobile, it's much more volatile and it oscillates. So we go from 1.7 up to 2.8, back down to 1.7, back up to 2.2. So the key message here is the iterative development of the actual performance of the 2 different platforms and channels could be, if managed in terms of a dashboard score, and as we're looking at it, possibly should have been picked up from the data that we have coming from consumers who are testing the journeys through our program. And so really we should be looking at an iterative improvement in the performance over time. And that oscillating score in terms of the mobile for Betfred would be of a concern. And it would suggest that there are large changes that are happening, and those changes, some of them are positive, but we're not improving on the positive, and learning from that sometimes we may be moving more towards the negative. So that is the bad element that we were talking about today. Now, the ugly, Brad Pitt. Everything that I've shown you up until now has been based on films, so it's not that I'm saying Brad Pitt is ugly, I'm saying that in the movie Inglourious Basterds he was an ugly character. So for anybody here who's very much a fan of Brad Pitt. So we're talking about the ugly, and in this particular case I want to talk about Betfair and I want to talk about William Hill. We've got a large chart on screen in front of us. I don't want it to scare anybody off. The first thing is that the unbroken line is the desktop score, and the broken line is the mobile score. We already looked at the very, very beginning that William Hill and Betfair are underperforming in terms of their mobile journey against their desktop journey. And I want to know why, and I want to see what's going on. There are a couple of things which concern me here. If we look at the proportional difference between different scores, what we can see at is that the initial engagement score, there is a significant difference there for William Hill in terms of their mobile against their desktop, but it's really at their introducing options score where there is the largest difference, which is a percentage difference of 28% between their mobile and their desktop score. We can see at the adding a bet stage for William Hill, we're at 22.6, and then at the channel selection stage, it's 16.5. For Betfair, we're looking at 24.5 at the introducing stage in terms of percentage difference, and registration at 13 and channel selection at 10. So William Hill are really the most underperforming here at the introducing option stage. As I said, they have a percentage difference of 28%. So what is it that's causing this problem for William Hill? So now what we're looking at specifically is William Hill's desktop scores against their mobile scores. And why is it that they're performing so well on their desktop, which is one of the reasons actually they're a very strong performer in terms of their desktop, and what is it that is underperforming on the mobile? With introducing options, the stage, we have 2 subcategories. We have learn about event options and we have learn about betting options. In the bar chart below, what I've done is I've pulled out different scores in terms of task effectiveness. So we have effectiveness of locating event. We can see 33% on desktop, 26% on mobile. But it's really in the effectiveness of locating betting options, we can see that this large gap between the desktop scores and the mobile scores on 69% versus 31%. So what is it that's driving the score? And learning about betting options, why is it underperforming on mobile? So as we look at the William Hill mobile, and as people were looking to complete the task, one of the things that we have is the voice of the customer. In a study, if you do a study with global reviews in terms of measuring either mobile or desktop, we will put 50 in-market consumers through your website and we'll ask them to complete, as I said, between 5 and 6 tasks. The reason why we put 50 in-market consumers rather than 15, which you might find in a normal user testing study, is because it gives us so much more in terms of voice of the customer. It also does that things in terms of the 95%, which we raised at the very, very beginning, which is a key part of our methodology because it enables us to identify the 95% of the problems that people are having. So let's look at some of the verbatim open-ended comments that people were saying about William Hill. I couldn't find the right race. I couldn't find a search bar to search for odds or horse name. The floating menu at the top kept jumping out. No idea which race course, so looked at each in turn but could not find either race nor horse. Could not see a search function, and I am very savvy too. A search bar for those completely unused to placing and betting online would be useful. Found lots of odds, not the right one. Cannot find the horse or the race. Have spent 10 minutes looking and could not find a search option would be best. So there's a clear message coming out here that people are looking for a search bar, which is an interesting thing when it comes to the mobile, because obviously we're limited on space and we have to be smart in terms of how we do things. There's the A to Z, which exists potentially within the burger menu, and then also there's various other ways in which we can help with search. But what the people here are telling us is that when they can't find what they're looking for, they will default for a search tool, and that they have a level of expectation in terms of something like that functionality being available to them in order to be able to find what they're looking for. And the reason why I put this forward as the ugly part of the study that I'm going through today is because one of the questions that we ask in both the mobile and the desktop journey is, if this was a real life situation and you encountered problems on a website when doing research on placing a bet, please select what you would do next. 21% of those who conducted the research on the mobile journey said that they would leave and look for another provider, whereas 13% did so on the desktop journey. So what we're really looking at here is that people will just give up. And so the fact that William Hill's mobile journey is underperforming against its desktop is completely in contradiction to the results that we have on screen on here. So it's really going to hurt them even more, because desktop people are more forgiving, is essentially the message, because only 13% will leave in comparison to 21%. Now, some of the other things in this chart which are interesting, so I would look for an online web chat feature is coming very high in terms of MSC and DSC. So that's the mobile journey and the desktop journey. And so there's lots of other things in here as well, but I want to kick on because I'm slightly over time and I want to come towards the end of the study. So the final piece that I'm going to wrap up with is the marketing strategy. We've looked at the UX journey, we've looked at the customer journey and how the different providers are performing. Now I would like to look specifically at the marketing journey, which is before people come to your website and essentially the initial impressions that they get of your website, and how are the different providers performing in this capacity within the marketplace. So the marketing strategy is measured very differently using a different methodology, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But let's just talk about how we measure performance. We have 4 steps within the sales and acquisition funnel. Let's imagine a person is starting to look for a provider. They're in market, they're looking to place a bet within the next couple of days, and so they've gone on to Google and they're starting to search. So one of the things that we measure at the very, very beginning is brand recall, unprompted brand recall, before they start searching for anything at all. Then we measure the number of people who actually visit your website. So that's not a passive, that's a passive score, that's not a claimed score. So we're looking at the number of people who visited your website. And then after they visited your website, how many people actually shortlist you, because they're going to visit maybe a couple of different websites. So what we're looking at here is a bucket. We're looking at a repertoire. How many do they have in a repertoire, and do you make it? And then finally, final preference. They can choose one option, and do they choose you? And so the score from shortlisted through to final preference is actually a very, very important score, because while you may get on the shortlist, you may not actually make it through to the final selection. So you have lost the opportunity, but yet your marketing budget has brought you to the point of getting on the shortlist. What is it that stopped you from making it over the line, and why was it that somebody else was chosen over you? So the marketing strategy piece is a much, much broader piece that I'm going to talk about here today, but I want to give you just a taster in terms of why this is important as we look at UX and all of the slides that I've shown you up to now. So if we look at those who shortlisted Paddy Power and we look at the final preference of those who shortlisted Paddy Power, so 60% are shortlisting Paddy Power, but only 17% are actually choosing them at the final preference. If you compare that to William Hill, where we have 52% and 16% choosing at final preference, we can see that the shortlist to conversion ratio for Paddy Power is actually 43%, whereas the shortlist to conversion ratio for William Hill is actually 52%. And so we can see that William Hill, Sky Bet, Bet365 and Betfair are the most popular ones that are taking in and around the same proportion of people from the shortlist. If we look at Coral, we can see 34% of people who are shortlisting them, and then 47% is the actual shortlist conversion, with going down to 6% in terms of the final preference. So understanding how it moves from unprompted brand awareness, if we look at Coral, so 26% didn't think of them at the beginning when they're asked about different types of providers which come to mind. But yet somewhere along the online journey, as they were visiting websites and maybe aggregators and research sites, or they saw advertising, they actually thought of Coral, and then they actually put them into the repertoire or the bucket list when it came to the actual shortlisting. And then at the shortlisting, what is it that drives them to the next stage? So those who preferred Paddy Power, one of the things that we ask is, at the shortlist stage, why did you shortlist? And at the final preference stage, why did you choose this brand as your final preference? So what's interesting is that the things that are driving Paddy Power are they had the best offers for my needs, the website helped me to find betting options quickly, their website was visually appealing, and their betting options were easy to understand. That's interesting because we've looked at Paddy Power and we've seen that they're performing very strongly in terms of their UX and their customer experience when it comes to the actual website. So it would suggest that their website experience is matching up against the reasons why people are actually preferring them as they're moving through the funnel. If we look at William Hill, we can see a very different picture altogether. We can see that trust and the fact that they have used them before is the key thing which is driving people to choose William Hill as the final preference. And then preferred Coral, we can see that the website is visually appealing and I've used them before, and their betting options were easy to understand is what's driving them. Now, at the very, very beginning, I said that the William Hill marketing strategy is performing, and the reason why I say that is because in the previous slide, we saw that 52% of those who choose them at the shortlist are going on to choose them at the final preference, which is the highest conversion rate. But the reason why I said that it's not sustainable is because trust and I have used them before is the basis upon which they are competing. So people will want to look around. They'll want to look on the best odds. And we know that mobile and navigation is in mobile, navigation and being able to find what they're looking for easily is one of the most important metrics. And so as Paddy Power and Sky Bet and other providers continue to outperform against William Hill, who are under indexing mobile against desktop, William Hill are ultimately going to start losing people because people are switching all the time and the churn ratio is high all the time. And so that's why I would suggest that their marketing strategy is not sustainable. Okay, very quickly, the marketing, I've kind of gone about this backwards. So the marketing program starts with the concept of looking for a provider. How attractive are you? How are you intercepting them? What messages are you using? The methodology we use for this is very different to the methodology that you saw when we were doing customer journey mapping and measuring the customer journey experience. So for the marketing methodology, we take 200 in-market consumers on a monthly basis. It is a quantitative methodology and it's longitudinal. So over an annual period, we will have 2,400 in-market consumers who, and what I mean by in-market is that they are looking to place a bet they have placed a bet within the last month and they're looking to place a bet within the next 90 days. And then we also bring in terms of market representation, an 80-20 split male-female, and we match the market in terms of what market penetration and demographics are. It's a longitudinal study, so we can break down the results on a monthly or quarterly basis. The first thing we do is we bring them in and we ask them, okay, before they do any tasks, please tell us who can you think of in the market today as a sports betting provider. And then from that, we ask about initial preference. We then ask them to go and find a sports betting provider. And they go off online and we record everything that they do. We record their keywords, we record the journeys that they take, we record the websites they visit, how long it takes them. We record multiple pathways. So they may start off in a search engine, go to a website, and then come back to a search engine again. We look at the different types of keywords that they use, and obviously we know who they are in terms of we map them on their profile, on their income, their household, their age, whether they're married and children. Key part of that is that it's passive measurement rather than claimed behavior. Once they've completed that task, they come back into the program again, into the study, to the survey, and we ask them, okay, now that you have informed yourself and educated yourself, please tell us who would you shortlist at this point? Who would you put on your repertoire? And then from the shortlist, the final preferred brand. So that's the methodology. I've gone through everything that I wanted to go through today. The final thing I would say about the marketing strategy is just the thought that we conduct market research all the time, as in all of the people here who are listening to me today conduct large bodies of research in terms of marketing. One of the key things which will make the marketing strategy piece that we conduct different is that we conduct preferred brand on the basis of those who are in market and not just a general body of work, as in a general large sample of people who claim to be bettors. We measure preferred brand having completed the journey of looking for an actual provider, so they're informed. So it's a mirror of the marketplace is a key point. And then taking that mirror of the marketplace, understanding what they're looking for, what it is that drives them from one provider to another, we then can measure the performance of the actual customer journey on the mobile side or the desktop side and give a full end-to-end view of the whole entire journey. And that's essentially what Global Reviews can provide. So what I've gone to today is a whistle-stop tour, a very, very top level in terms of the different types of insights that we provide. Other than that, we have a lot of attitudinal and behavioral data, a lot of channel data, and different ways in people want to interact with their brands, whether it be through branches, mobile, desktop, and whatever it is. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we have a lot of historical data, which I indicated through some of the slides, and there's ongoing research all of the time with the marketing study on a monthly basis. On the desktop and the mobile studies, they are on a more 6-monthly basis. And if you'd like to get in touch with us to talk about the workshop programming and how our consultants work with brands in order to deliver insights and work on an iterative basis to help to develop customer journeys. So thank you very much for coming along to this session. My name is Jared Farrell. My contact details are on screen in front of you if you would like to get in touch. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go mute my microphone just for a minute in case anybody has any questions, and then I'll read through the questions and then I'll answer any that I can, and then what we'll do is we'll wrap up. But thank you very much for your time. Okay, guys, thank you very much. I've got one question which has come through there, which is how do we work with clients in terms of how is the data actually distributed? So there are two ways, really, in which the data is distributed. The first one is through an online portal where our clients get access to the full data themselves, and they're able to, that's an interactive portal, so they're able to cut and analyze all of the data live online themselves. And it's a very robust system where you can get into the actual CSV files and pull down the actual data, or you can just analyze things more on an actual graphical basis. So that's the first way in which we work with clients. So that's almost like that they are driving their own analysis. And then we also work in a consultancy capacity. So my job is I'm a client advisor, and I will look at the data with the client in terms of what their objectives are, and we will look at how they are performing against their competitors in the industry, and we will also look further apart in other industries around the world. Global Reviews operates in multiple markets around the world, in multiple industries, and so we're able to pull out best practice. For example, the banking industry are very strong in terms of security and in terms of biometrics and people identifying themselves and different types of things that they're doing. And so we take best practice, both from the studies that we're conducting and then also from looking at what different people are doing around the world, and we feed that then back into the actual results and analysis and consumer insights and make recommendations on that basis in terms of how clients can improve the customer journeys or their marketing strategies. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very, very much for coming along. And again, if you have any questions, my contact details are on screen. And this webinar will be recorded. And so if you would like to get access to the webinar, that's no problem as well. Thank you very much.